When a woman pulls away and starts ignoring you, something inside you switches on. It's not just confusion. It's that mix of wounded pride and fear of losing something that once felt secure. It's a silence heavier than 1,000 words. Suddenly, everything you used to do, texts, calls, attention, seems useless, and the more you try to win her back, the further she drifts away. It hits hard because it bruises both your ego and your heart. And that's usually the point where most men make the mistake that completely kills any chance of attraction. Many believe that when a woman distances herself, the right move is to insist, clear things up, show interest, or ask for explanations. But that strategy rarely works. What she actually picks up on isn't your words, it's your energy. A needy, anxious, and emotionally chaotic energy that confirms she made the right choice by walking away. However, when you understand the psychological reasons behind her behavior and learn to respond from a place of control, everything changes. She starts to see you differently, not because you begged, but because you regained your center. This video will show you how to do that. If this is your first time here, my name is Celia. I teach men how to reclaim their emotional power and rebuild their attractiveness from the inside out, without manipulation, without begging for attention, and without losing their dignity. I invite you to subscribe and stay with me until the end, because today I'm going to reveal the behaviors that destroy attraction, the ones that rebuild it, and most importantly, how to master the mental and emotional framework that keeps a woman connected to you, even when she pulls away. Let's begin. When a woman distances herself without warning, a man's first impulse is usually to look for answers outside himself. He wants to understand what happened, when everything changed, or what he said wrong. However, the real turning point isn't about her. It's about what he did or failed to do that made her feel she no longer needed to be there. Women rarely pull away out of nowhere. They do it when their sense of connection or admiration weakens. That silent distance, which many read as coldness, is often a way to gauge the impact you still have on her. And in that moment, your reactions determine whether attraction dies for good or can be sparked again. Behind the apparent female indifference lies a complex emotional logic. When she steps back, she's not necessarily trying to disappear. She's observing. She watches to see if your attitude changes, if you panic, or if you keep your composure. Deep down, she wants to know if you're still the man who inspired her, or if you've become someone dependent on her attention. Every impulsive text, every attempt to clarify what happened, tells her you're no longer in control of yourself. Attraction rarely vanishes because of a single act. It fades through a sequence of small gestures that signal insecurity or neediness. So far, we've established that when a woman pulls away, the worst mistake is trying to stop her with explanations or demands. What she notices isn't what you say, but what you project emotionally. In that moment, staying calm isn't indifference, it's strength. You don't regain attraction by chasing someone, but by showing that your world still has direction and value with or without her presence. And even if it hurts, your steadiness in her absence is the first sign that can make her look your way again. Instead of asking yourself, why did she change? It's better to ask, when did I stop being the man she respected? That's the key. Because a woman's withdrawal is a consequence, not a cause. And when you understand that, you stop chasing her approval and start rebuilding your own attractiveness. Sometimes the distance she takes is the opportunity you needed to come back to your center. When a woman feels her energy isn't met with a steady reflection, she retreats. But if she senses calm, consistency, and purpose in you, she can grow curious again, even after pulling away. In her emotional world, distance isn't always an ending. Often, it's a silent test. The man who passes it without losing control earns respect. And without respect, attraction can't hold. You don't need to chase her to win her back. You need to recover the balance that attracted her in the first place. Most men act from loss, when the game is actually won from presence. Staying calm when she pulls away is more powerful than any reconciliation speech. The absence of reaction is, in itself, a response she understands perfectly. With that said, let's look at something deeper: how male neediness and anxiety can cancel out any chance of reconnection. Most men don't lose a woman because they make a big mistake, but because they stop projecting emotional security. When she senses that your entire well-being depends on her attention, desire fades almost instantly. Neediness isn't expressed only through words. It shows in your energy: how often you text her, how you reach out, how you try to convince her to love you. It's an invisible pattern that communicates lack, and in the female mind, lack equals loss of value. What was once an attractive bond turns into an emotional burden. A woman's mind reacts instinctively to neediness. If she notices that you can't maintain your calm without her presence, she begins to see you as emotionally unstable, even if she never says it. That's why every attempt to show how much you care can backfire. She doesn't want to see you begging. She wants to see you centered. In mature relationships, attraction isn't fueled by flattery or persistence. It comes from the feeling that you're at peace with yourself. If you make her feel that your peace depends on her, she'll likely step back to recover her own. We've already seen that neediness is the root of the problem. Now, let's look at how it disguises itself. Neediness can appear as genuine interest, when in reality, it's anxiety about controlling the outcome. You catch yourself checking when she was last online, wondering what she's thinking or who she's with, sending messages you don't expect her to answer, just to ease your restlessness. But each of those actions pulls you further away from your masculine frame. When a woman senses that you lose control over her silence, she stops seeing the man who once attracted her and starts seeing someone afraid to be alone. Attraction doesn't come from chasing, it comes from contrast. She needs to feel that you choose her, not that you're begging for her. A man who chooses projects abundance. A man who begs communicates emptiness. And the female mind always gravitates toward what radiates calm, not urgency. The paradox is that when you stop trying to get her back, that's when you actually begin to do so. Emotional independence creates more desire than any promise of eternal love. It's crucial to understand that neediness creates rejection because it breaks the balance of power. In a healthy relationship, both people choose each other freely, not out of dependence. When you stay composed, you remind her that you're a man with your own life, direction, and purpose. But if your world collapses because she doesn't reply, you show her she can't trust your emotional stability. And no woman can feel attracted to a man she doesn't emotionally respect. Your challenge isn't to eliminate neediness, it's to transform it into self-control. When you manage to redirect your attention back to yourself, you regain something far more valuable than her presence: your center. That calm she felt at the beginning, the one that made her see you as a different kind of man, is the same calm that can reignite her curiosity now. But it only reappears when you detach from the fear of losing her and focus on strengthening yourself. Attraction dies when masculine energy surrenders to uncertainty. It's reborn when a man begins to act from abundance again. It's not about indifference, it's about self-respect. And once you understand that, you stop asking, "What should I do to make her come back?" and start asking, "How do I become the man who never needed to convince her of anything?" Now, let's move on to another deep cause of lost attraction: when a man gives up his frame and stops leading the emotional dynamic. A woman doesn't pull away just because she stops feeling attraction, but because she stops feeling admiration. And in the female language, admiration translates to respect. When a man loses his frame, that inner stability that defines his behavior regardless of circumstances, he starts acting reactively. Every silence from her throws him off. Every cold gesture makes him doubt himself. At that point, he stops being the man who set the tone of the relationship and becomes someone who follows her emotional rhythm. Attraction can't survive when emotional leadership changes hands. Frame isn't about imposing, it's about holding steady. It's the ability to stay calm, true to your principles and boundaries, even when the other person acts confusing or provocative. In relationships, a woman constantly tests the strength of a man's frame, even if she's not aware of it. She watches how you respond to distance, mood swings, or uncertainty. If she sees you wobble at the slightest imbalance, her mind loses its sense of safety. And when a woman no longer feels emotionally safe with you, she starts to disconnect. We've established that losing your frame leads to a loss of respect. But there's a second effect, the loss of mystery. A man with frame doesn't explain or justify his emotions. He acts with consistency. A man without frame seeks constant understanding and validation. She senses that need for approval and starts seeing him as predictable. And predictability is the opposite of attraction. On the other hand, when you keep your calm without unnecessary explanations, you spark curiosity. That's the foundation of healthy tension that keeps connection alive. Respect isn't demanded, it's inspired. A woman respects the man who stays on his path when she pulls away, not the one who tries to regain control out of desperation. That's why frame is so powerful. It not only protects you emotionally, but also reshapes how she sees you. When she realizes you're not falling apart, something in her starts to recognize the value she felt at the beginning. Simply put, frame is the most elegant way to remind her who you are, without saying a word. Rebuilding your frame doesn't mean being cold or indifferent, it means being clear. It's about not reacting impulsively, not justifying yourself at every doubt, not changing your boundaries to avoid conflict. It's about keeping your masculine energy centered on purpose and direction. When your behavior no longer depends on her moods, she starts to feel she can trust you again. The woman who walked away from chaos looks back when she sees stability. And that stability comes from your frame, not her validation. Sometimes losing respect doesn't happen because of something big. It happens through a series of small gestures, unnecessary apologies, lack of boundaries, endless explanations. Every time you prioritize pleasing her over being consistent, your frame weakens. And when she senses that weakness, she stops seeing you as an equal. Attraction dies when the tension of polarity between masculine leadership and feminine receptivity disappears. Respect is the oxygen of attraction. Without it, no connection can survive. So when she pulls away, don't chase her attention, recover your frame. If you regain it, you'll also regain the way she sees you. Take a moment to breathe and reflect on everything you've been learning. If this message is helping you see your relationships more clearly, I invite you to subscribe, like, and leave a comment with your name and country so I know where in the world you're watching from. I read every single word because behind each comment there's a story, a journey, and a man growing. That's what gives meaning to this work and keeps this community alive. If you feel like it, you can also share your personal experience or a piece of advice from your own journey. Your words might be exactly what another man needs to read today. With that said, let's get back to the topic and move toward an element that, when used wisely, can reverse distance without a single word: the power of silence and conscious space. Silence holds a power few men truly understand. In the emotional and psychological dynamic between men and women, what unsettles most isn't an explanation, it's the lack of one. When a woman decides to pull away, most men chase after her looking for answers. But the man who understands female psychology knows that sometimes silence communicates more than any attempt at dialogue. Because while she expects you to react, you choose to observe. While she's testing your level of dependence, you choose to remain centered. And that calm, far from showing disinterest, projects emotional mastery. Silence, when used wisely, isn't revenge or indifference. It's a tool of self-control. It's the most effective way to restore polarity. She pulls away to see if you'll fall apart, and you stay steady to remind her that your value doesn't depend on her presence. When you don't react to her withdrawal, you hand back the emotional weight of her decision. You allow her to feel the emptiness left by your absence. And even if she doesn't admit it, that absence triggers the contrast that reignites curiosity. Silence, in this context, doesn't kill the connection. It rebalances it. After everything we've discussed, we can now see that conscious distance isn't an act of pride, but of respect. When a man acts calmly and withdraws with grace, he becomes unpredictable. She goes from having you under control to having you on her mind. Because what disappears without drama leaves a much stronger mark than what clings desperately to be understood. The female mind associates detachment with value, and value with attractiveness. That's why silence and distance aren't the end, they're the pause that resets her perception. The mistake is confusing distance with disinterest. It's not about disappearing completely, it's about disappearing from the wrong place, the place of insistence. Conscious distance means channeling your energy into yourself, your goals, your purpose. Every time you shift your focus from the outcome to your own growth, your energetic presence changes. She feels it, even without seeing you. Absence becomes a silent form of presence, and the calm you project starts drawing her back in. The rebound effect is real. The more space you give, the stronger attraction can return, if there's authenticity behind it. But that effect only happens when your silence comes from serenity, not resentment. A man who goes silent to manipulate loses. A man who goes silent because he understands his worth earns respect. She doesn't come back because she misses you. She comes back because your absence reminded her of who you were when you still had your center. At this stage, it's important to remember that silence shouldn't be a punishment. It should reflect maturity. You don't need to block her, vanish, or erase her existence. It's enough to stop feeding confusion. Let her curiosity work in your favor. While you grow in silence, she starts to wonder what changed, and when a woman wonders in silence, she's already looking your way again. Silence and distance are the fertile ground where attraction can be reborn, but only if they're followed by a coherent reappearance. Because the next step, even more important, is how you show up again in her eyes. And that's what determines whether the connection reignites or fades away for good. Most men reappear when it's already too late, and they do it the worst possible way, by explaining. They try to justify, clarify, or convince, as if words could fix what their energy has already broken. But the truth is, a woman doesn't need to hear reasons. She needs to feel a change. If, when you come back, you carry the same neediness that made her pull away, your return only reinforces her decision to keep her distance. But when you reappear calmly, without complaints or promises, you project something far more powerful: value. Reappearing with value means letting your actions speak for you. If during the silence you worked on yourself, if your actions now show growth and direction, she'll feel it without you having to say a word. The message she receives is clear. You haven't forgotten her, but you haven't stopped moving forward either. And that combination of memory and progress creates respect. Women are drawn to men who can be alone without falling apart, who can lose without playing the victim, and who can wait without bitterness. That, more than any speech, communicates emotional strength. By now, we've understood that reappearing shouldn't be about seeking approval. It should be about showing consistency. When you return not trying to fix anything, but simply radiating peace, you change how she sees you. You go from being the man who needed to explain himself to the man who no longer needs to. That shift alters the emotional balance of the dynamic because she stops seeing you as a pleader and starts seeing you as an option again. The key lies in how and when you reappear. It's not about sending an emotional message or asking for another chance. It's about showing up on her radar from a different state of being. It might be a short greeting, a neutral gesture, or even a post that reflects your calm and focused energy. The medium doesn't matter, the underlying message does. Your world is still moving forward. And when she senses that movement without resentment, her mind begins to open again to curiosity. The man who reappears without neediness radiates abundance. His presence feels light without emotional weight. He's not seeking anything, yet he has plenty to offer, and that disarms any woman who expected to see you anxious or hurt. Instead, when she notices serenity, something inside her shifts. The realization that she no longer has power over your emotions sparks intrigue. Because deep down, every woman respects the man who can lose her without losing himself. Reappearing with value also means accepting any outcome. It's not about getting someone back, It's about reaffirming who you are. If she responds, great. If not, that's fine too. Because the goal isn't to rebuild the past, but to stay aligned with your new version. When you stop depending on the result, you project mastery. And mastery, in terms of attraction, is irresistible. True strength doesn't need to be shown. When your energy radiates calm, direction, and detachment, nothing else needs to be said. Your attitude alone redefines how she feels. And if you choose to interact again, do it with gratitude, not nostalgia. Because a man who is grateful for what was demonstrates maturity, and maturity is the soil where the most genuine form of attraction grows. With that said, now that we understand how to reappear with value and not with words, it's time to talk about what truly reignites female desire, the solid, serene, and conscious masculine energy that rekindles admiration. A woman doesn't come back by chance or out of nostalgia. She returns because she feels once again the masculine energy that once captivated her. That strength isn't forced, it's transmitted. It's the blend of calm, direction, and self-confidence that radiates from a man who's connected to his purpose. In that state, he doesn't try to please or convince, he simply stands firm in his own center. That presence, serene and decisive, awakens something primal in a woman, the feeling of emotional safety. It's not about what you say or how you look, it's about what she feels when she's in your presence. Attractive masculine energy is built on 3 invisible pillars: direction, emotional mastery, and purpose. When a man knows where he's going, he becomes magnetic. A woman feels she can relax emotionally around him because he doesn't crumble under pressure or change course out of fear. That emotional steadiness is rare, and that's why it's so captivating. Words lose their power in the face of a presence that radiates certainty. You don't need to talk about your achievements or your changes. Your behavior speaks for you. In the previous points, we saw that neediness and loss of frame destroy attraction. Now we understand that conscious masculine energy reignites it, because it's not about doing something to win her back. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to. When your energy stops revolving around a woman and recenters on your life, she feels it. Your voice changes, your eyes change, your rhythm changes. You become once again the man who leads his world, not the one who reacts to everyone else's. Mature masculine energy doesn't seek control. It influences through calm. It listens without haste, responds without fear, and decides without hesitation. And when a woman senses that, no matter how much time has passed, attraction returns. Because feminine desire is born from contrast. She needs to feel that even if she moves closer, you will never lose your center. That mix of freedom and firmness is what makes her admire you. Reclaiming your masculine energy doesn't mean hardening, it means balancing. It's not about being cold, but about being steady. It's not about cutting ties completely, but about not depending. When you find that balance, every interaction with her becomes lighter, smoother, more genuine. You no longer try to earn her attention, you allow connection to happen naturally. And that, to a woman, is irresistible, because it reminds her of what it feels like to be in front of a complete man, not someone seeking completion through her. That energy also changes how you relate to the world. You stop chasing outcomes and start enjoying the process. You stop seeking external validation and begin cultivating inner respect. Your gaze shifts. You no longer look at what you've lost, but at what you can build. And that deep, quiet change is what she senses when she sees you again. The man who once needed attention has now become someone who inspires confidence. The most important thing to understand is that true attraction isn't about strategy, it's about vibration. When you vibrate in calm, abundance, and purpose, your very presence communicates what words never could. That's when you stop being just an option and become a reference point. And that is the essence of the masculine energy that attracts, the one that doesn't seek admiration, but inevitably earns it. Now, with that solid foundation, it's time to take everything you've learned to the highest level, mastering the mental and emotional framework of the relationship. That's where the kind of man you are and the quality of the bond you can build are truly defined. When you understand female psychology and learn to stay emotionally stable, the relationship stops being a battlefield and becomes a space of emotional leadership. Mastering the mental and emotional frame of a relationship doesn't mean manipulating or imposing. It means leading with clarity and purpose. It's the ability to remain centered when she fluctuates, to stay calm when she's confused, and to act with awareness instead of reaction. At that point, you stop riding her emotional roller coaster and become the fixed point that gives her a sense of security. A man who masters his mental frame understands that he can't control what she feels, but he can control what he projects. He knows his emotions are contagious, and his balance sets the tone of the relationship. That's why, in the face of conflict, he doesn't raise his voice or justify himself. He stays in his center. She may test him, challenge him, or push his limits, but his steady calm eventually dissolves any tension. When she realizes she can't shake him emotionally, she begins to trust him again. With that in mind, it's clear that true masculine leadership is demonstrated in silence, not with speeches about control or strength, but with stability and direction. In a mature relationship, the man who masters the mental frame is the one who creates an environment where both can grow. She allows herself to feel, he provides steadiness. That difference in roles isn't about hierarchy, it's about balance. Masculine energy doesn't need to shout its presence. Its calm alone commands respect. Mastering the emotional frame also means not reacting to every trigger, not engaging in pointless arguments, and not allowing her emotions to dictate your decisions. When you reach that level, it no longer affects you if she pulls away, changes moods, or tests your limits. You stop trying to analyze her every move and start observing them with maturity. That's when she realizes you're not available for drama, but for genuine connection. And that's something rare to find. An emotionally mature man doesn't need to prove his strength. He already embodies it. He doesn't need to argue. His silence carries weight. He doesn't aim to win every conversation, but to maintain harmony. And when he masters his mind and his energy, he not only reignites attraction, but elevates the entire relationship. Because a woman doesn't want a man who reacts like her. She wants one who balances her. And that balance can only come from conscious emotional control. A solid mental frame doesn't erase vulnerability, it organizes it. You can feel, love, and show empathy without losing yourself in the process. That combination of strength and measured sensitivity is what attracts the most. She doesn't seek perfection, she seeks direction. And when she finds that in you, she stops searching for it elsewhere. At that point, attraction turns into respect, and respect into trust. Mastering the mental and emotional frame of the relationship is the art of leading through serenity. It's being the man who can love without losing his center, listen without surrendering his power, and stay present without abandoning his purpose. When you reach that level, no distance can break the bond, because your energy has become the emotional anchor every woman seeks. Now that you've understood this, it's time to close this journey with a final reflection. The real conquest isn't keeping a woman, it's standing firm in who you are, while life decides whether the two of you are meant to meet again. When a woman pulls away, many men believe the goal is to get her back. But in truth, the real purpose is to get yourself back. Everything you've learned here isn't about strategies to make her return, it's about principles that bring you back to your center. Because attraction isn't sustained by the fear of losing someone, but by the calm certainty of knowing who you are. When a man understands this, he stops begging for attention and starts radiating value. And ironically, at that very moment when he no longer needs her, he becomes most powerful in inspiring her return. Rebuilding attraction doesn't happen through endless talking, insisting, or constant displays of affection. It happens by coming back to your core, mastering your energy, and reconnecting with your purpose. She feels your vibration before she hears your words. She senses your calm before she even sees you. That's why, if you want her to look your way again, don't chase her, rise. The man who masters his mind and emotional frame doesn't seek to control love. he flows with it through maturity. And when he does, he no longer fears distance, because he knows his worth doesn't depend on who stays, but on how firmly he stands when someone leaves. Thank you deeply for making it this far. This space exists to help you understand female psychology from a mature, ethical, and conscious perspective. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to support this work by subscribing, liking, and commenting with your name and country, so we can see where every man in this community is tuning in from. I read every comment and value every word. Thank you for being part of this journey, where we learn to build relationships based on respect, trust, and authenticity. See you in the next video.